Star Trek Discovery was renewed for Season 3, which comes as a bit of a surprise because a lot of people were expecting, or at least hoping, for it to not go past Season 2, because I think, as I briefly mentioned before in the last episode, there was a whole big controversy going on with Season 1 where it pissed off a lot of Star Trek fans because it was a big departure in tone and visual from the traditional series. And in Season 2, clearly you could see from the trailer in the newer episodes that they're kind of on a course correction right now. Like, they got back the captain from the unaired pilot of the original series, and he's kind of the main captain now. And you can see that they're trying to lighten up the tone, probably in response to Star Trek fans and also the success of the Orville. Because the first season of Discovery was, really serious and grim. But another big complaint was that you don't really get to know the crew like you do in other shows. Like, the crews were always traditionally very well fleshed out. Whereas here, it's like a very select few. And I think, personally, as a result of the serious tone, that they had this comic relief character who I don't really like. But now, since they've lightened the tone, it's like everybody has their moments. But yeah, Season 3, I'm not sure where they're going to go with that. I guess that means that it's doing well enough that they renewed it for a Season 3. Because before I heard that Netflix pretty much paid for the whole first season. But then, CBS had to fund the second. So I don't know if they took more risks or what. But here's a funny thing. So, the team that worked on the J.J. Abrams reboots, Bad Robot?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. So Alex Kurtzman, who worked on all those movies, is leading the team under a different name, but it's still pretty much like a similar team as the ones who worked on those movies, and they're doing these shows. So it's kind of like still the same creative mindset. And that's why a lot of the different camera angles and special effects are similar. But he's not going to be the main showrunner for this Season 3. It's going to be someone else who's doing it. And it also says, funny enough, they're also planning all these other Star Trek series. It said one of them was like an animated comedy called The Lower Decks. And the main writer of that is actually one of the main writers for Rick and Morty.
Oh, that's cool.
Apparently he's been a huge fan of Star Trek for a long time, so...
Yeah, I feel like to work on Rick and Morty, you must have that background to some extent, Yeah, I mean, so I haven't really watched any of Star Trek Discovery, but I actually didn't know J.J. Abrams had any control over the series. I didn't know he had any influence over it whatsoever.
Well, it's not him personally. It's people who were on his team during the making of the reboot films.
Yeah, interesting. So, yeah, I mean, Bad Robot has consistently been pretty good across series. I mean, Alias was, I think, their first big one. Fringe was amazing, which I think more people should see. I don't know why people aren't talking about Fringe, but yeah. So I mean, I guess I should give it a chance, but just based on what I've heard, it seems just dull,
Yeah. Well, like I said, there's a lot of traditional fans who absolutely despise it, and of course, it has its defenders. Personally, as someone who really likes Star Trek, I don't hate it. Like, it's clearly a departure, like I said, from the tone that we know of. But I didn't really see that as a bad thing at first, because it was kind of about all this military conflict between Starfleet and the Klingons. So I thought it was going to be a more, military-focused thing. But now they just say, oh, it's episodic, kind of, but there's an end goal to each season. Each season has its own plot that's centered around. So it's like episodic seasons instead of a whole series focused on one thing, or this episode's having standalone plots.
Right.
What was cool was that they brought back the guy who played Riker in The Next Generation to direct a couple episodes, who also directed an episode or two of Orville.
Oh, cool.
There's a lot of connectivity going on in sci-fi right now.